Welcome into Pigskin Perspectives. It is time to preview college football week 3. It's a disgusting slate. There's nothing really good going on. NFL week 2. NFL week 2 starting tonight, obviously. Thursday night football, kicking everything off. But first, we'll start off, as it seems like we always do now, with these preview shows. We'll start off with college football. I'll give you my 6-pack, my 6 games that I think will be the most entertaining, games of the weekend. Doesn't mean the games that aren't listed here aren't crucial or important, but figured we will get into those right now. And like I said, it's a disgusting slate this weekend. It was hard to put together 6 good games here, so some of these don't really fit in here, but they were put in anyways. So the first one was number 7, Penn State traveling to Champaign to face off against the Illinois Fighting Illini. That game is the big noon kickoff game on Fox. It's really only in here because it's a Big Ten matchup between two Big Ten teams. Illinois has had a terrible start to the season. They don't look like the dark horse that people thought that they were going to be this year. And Penn State, they look good right now. I wouldn't say they look great, but they don't look terrible. They haven't really played anybody outstanding yet, which affects what we think of them right now, I would say. I don't think this is going to be a real test for them, but it could always get dangerous going into Champaign, so you never know there. The second one is the SEC on CBS game, the normal 3:30 kickoff for the final season ever with CBS. It is South Carolina headed down to Athens to face off against the Georgia Bulldogs. South Carolina, another team, hasn't had an outstanding start to the season, but it always seems like they give Georgia challenges, so this game could be closer than what the experts think. But I still see the Dogs coming out on top here. Just the beginning of their season has, I wouldn't say it has been flawless, but it's been quite good. They also haven't really played anybody again, so it's a first real test for Georgia, even though I don't really think it's going to be a test for them anyways. But I wouldn't be surprised if South Carolina keep it close. San Diego State travel to Oregon State to face off against the Beavers, a who knows potential conference game next year, given that Oregon State still has no idea where they're playing their football next year. I think this is a really interesting matchup. Oregon State definitely the better team here, but I feel like San Diego State could give them a lot of challenges. Given that it's at Research Stadium in Corvallis, that very much gives Oregon State the upper hand here. But like I said, Brady Hoke and those Aztecs, they can cause trouble for a lot of teams, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happens in this game. Moving on, it is a 5 p.m. kickoff exclusively on Peacock. It is Washington facing off against Michigan State, a top 10 ranked Washington team headed on the road to face a Michigan State team that just seems to be in complete free fall right now, even though they're 2-0. Everything that's happened with the program this week, it just seems like everything's in a complete free fall. I think a lot of people are expecting Washington to just walk into Spartan Stadium and just win by 30, which is a very real possibility. But I also wouldn't be surprised if Michigan State, playing on everything that's happened this week, somehow keep this game close, even though there is no reason for them to. They are not better than Washington, and they aren't by far. But I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan State finds a way to keep this game close. Moving on, 7 p.m. kickoff on ESPN. Number 11, Tennessee, head down to the Swamp to face off against the Gators. This traditional rivalry, always week 3 of the season. Florida, not looking outstanding this year. Tennessee struggled last week. It's going to be interesting to see if they can rebound from that. I'm sure that they can, given that I just don't think Florida is good at all. But I've seen crazier things happen. If Florida wins this game, it wouldn't shock me. But Tennessee is the better team here, and I expect them to come out with the win. And finally, the last game of this six-pack, it's Colorado State at Colorado, the Rocky Mountain Showdown, really only being added in here because, A, like I said, the games are terrible this week, and B, the Deion Sanders train keeps rolling. Big noon Saturday, going back to Boulder, even though they don't have this game. College game day, going to Boulder. They do have this game, but it's interesting how this train keeps rolling. Once again, this is going to probably be a Colorado blowout, just given where Colorado State is right now. Next week's the first real challenge for Colorado, playing Oregon. It's going to be interesting to see how they play out there because that game is at Autzen Stadium. Should be a very entertaining game. That will most likely be in the six-pack for next week, but we have to get through this week first. Like I said, I think Colorado roll here and get a large victory. So given that, that is the six-pack for week 3. So might as well move on to the NFL. A packed slate for week 2 that starts off tonight as the Minnesota Vikings face off against the Philadelphia Eagles on Amazon Prime. The Vikings coming off a loss, a inexplicable loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Eagles, it wasn't a convincing win against the Patriots, I would say. I think both teams have a lot to prove tonight. I think the Eagles probably prove more because I think they're just the better team here and they come out with victory. Moving on to Sunday, the AFC North battle as the Baltimore Ravens face off against the Cincinnati Bengals. Both teams had kind of polar opposite games week 1. The Ravens blew out the Texans, and then the Bengals got blown out by the Browns. This game's going to be close, I think. We're going to see a different Bengals team than we saw last week. Like I said, I think that they were hampered by injuries, or not injuries, the weather last week. They just couldn't play the game they wanted to. It should be better this week. I expect this to be a very close game. The Seahawks traveled to Detroit to face off against the Lions. The Kool-Aid is just flowing. That Honolulu Blue Kool-Aid is flowing in Detroit. A lot of people are hyped up about this team. But I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle gives Detroit a challenge in this game. They had a very lackluster game against the Rams week 1, but I do think that they'll look better this week and will give the Lions a real challenge. An AFC South battle between the Colts and the Texans, two first-year quarterbacks facing off against each other as Anthony Richardson faces off against C.J. Stroud. Really, that's the only talking point in this game. Both these teams aren't that good. The Bears traveled down to Tampa to face off against the Buccaneers. Buccaneers coming off that huge Week 1 victory, and the Bears coming off that loss to the Packers, just a demoralizing loss. It's going to be interesting to see how the Bears can respond from that, to see if they show any improvement this year, I guess I would say. The Chiefs traveled to Jacksonville to face off against the Jaguars. This should be one of the more entertaining games of the week. Both teams have high expectations this year. Obviously, the Chiefs coming off that Super Bowl victory. The Jaguars coming off their first playoff win since their run to the AFC Championship like 6 years ago, I believe it was, with Blake Bortles. I'm expecting a very good game here, a very close game. Obviously, the biggest question is going to be if Travis Kelce plays. I believe it's expected that he's going to play, but obviously things can change before Sunday, but should still be a very good game nonetheless, and probably the game of the week. Packers traveled down to Atlanta to face off against the Falcons. Jordan Love should be quite an interesting game to see how he comes off that week 1 victory in just a almost dominating fashion against the Bears. The Falcons also coming off a week 1 victory against the Carolina Panthers. It's going to be interesting to see if Desmond Ridder can build on that performance and Bijan Robinson can build on that performance and defeat the Packers. The Raiders traveled to Buffalo to face off against the Bills. The Bills coming off that just disgusting loss on Monday Night Football. The Raiders had a disgusting win against the Broncos last week. So 2 teams that played disgusting games last week now face off against each other. Will be interesting to see who comes out on top with that game. The Chargers traveled to Tennessee to face off against the Titans. The Chargers played a amazing week 1 game against the Dolphins where they came up just short. Titans just didn't look good week 1, so I'm expecting the Chargers to roll here. The team that always takes over SoFi Stadium, the San Francisco 49ers, traveled down to SoFi to face off against the LA Rams. I said it on Monday or Tuesday, whenever it was, that the 49ers, I believe, are a legit Super Bowl contender. I think they proved that in this game. I think that they roll over the Rams. The Rams got that huge win week 1 against the Seahawks. I think that the 49ers are the much better team here. A team that just didn't show up week 1, the New York Giants face off against the very much tanking Arizona Cardinals. It is basically just a terrible battle here. It will be. I'm sure that the Giants will get their first points of the season in this game. I'm sure that the Cardinals will lose because they are purposely tanking. And I don't know if it's going to be close or not. That's the only thing here. I think the Giants win no matter what, though. The team that defeated the New York Giants last week in that just huge beat down on Sunday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys host the New York Jets, who are now Aaron Rodgers-less after 4 plays. The torn Achilles is confirmed. He's out for the season. It's now Zach Wilson's team, even though there's reports out there that they're looking for a veteran quarterback. I don't think anything's going to happen with that. I think they'll stick with Zach Wilson. Going to be interesting to see how that team can bounce off that overtime week 1 victory against the Bills on Monday Night Football. But that Cowboys team, they looked really good against the Giants week 1 on Sunday Night Football, especially, given that 40-0 victory. 2 more teams that played a disgusting game of football last weekend. It is the Washington Commanders facing off against the Denver Broncos. I really don't know what to think here. I'm inclined just to pick the Commanders because I don't trust Russell Wilson, which is a huge liability right now. So as of now, I'm picking the Commanders to win this game. Sunday Night Football, the Dolphins travel to New England to face off against the Patriots. A Patriots team that I don't know what to think about them. They fought back against the Eagles but didn't get the victory. A Dolphins team that played an outstanding game against the Chargers, got the win. I'd like the Dolphins to win this game, but nobody just enters Foxborough and walks out with an easy victory. I wouldn't be surprised if Bill Belichick pulls out some magic and somehow keeps this game close or even wins it. Moving on to Monday night, it is a Monday night doubleheader. They usually do it week 1. I guess they moved it to week 2 this year. The first one, the New Orleans Saints travel to Carolina to face off against the Panthers. 2 teams I really don't have a ton of thoughts on because they're just not great. Derek Carr did have a very good performance week 1, though, as his first start as the Saints quarterback. See if that can carry over to this week. And on ABC, the 8:15 game, the Cleveland Browns travel to Pittsburgh to face off against the Steelers. A rivalry renewed. 2 cities absolutely hate each other. 2 teams absolutely hate each other. The Browns, I believe, are actually favored in this game. It's the first time they've been favored in Pittsburgh since, I believe, the late 80s. which is just astounding to say. I still can't count out the Steelers here because they're the Steelers. Even though they're dealing with a lot of injuries, I'm still expecting them to somehow come out with this victory because the Browns can never figure it out, it seems, on the road in Pittsburgh, unless it's a playoff game with like 15 people in attendance. Then they can go up 28-0 in the first quarter and win that game. So given that, that is going to be it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you just stumbled across Pigskin Perspectives, click the like button, click the subscribe button, tell anybody you know about it. We will be back for a recap of all of this. College football will recap on Sunday, and then the NFL we will recap on Tuesday. So we will see you then for another episode of Pigskin Perspectives.